Yeah, buddy, we're coming live from old school Lambeau Field from the new Studio Green in a basement in a suburb outside of Philadelphia, Eric. Yeah, buddy, how we doing up there in the Northwoods?
You are looking fabulous down by the river there, my friend. We're actually matchy because that Bob Harlan print on my wall behind me is of exactly what's right behind you.
Yeah, this
Oh,
was from
what's McEachran going to say now? Holy Christ.
Too much agreeing. Yeah, this is fun. We took a little break. Thanks everybody for sticking with us. We took a little break. Had to do a little rearranging in the studio down here and get things reset. Got a green screen now, Eric. So everybody on YouTube gonna really enjoy the backdrop of old school Lambeau Field that I have. But also going to be able to do some fun things, Eric, coming up with some of our draft prospects. And as we go and evaluate some of these players, I'm going to be blasting them up on this green screen. We're going to be able to have a lot of fun. So make sure you guys are jumping on over to our YouTube page, Acme Army, and hitting that subscribe button because we will be having much more content out in this offseason because we do not stop. Eric, am I wrong?
You are never wrong, and that's another one for you, Mr. McEachran.
Yeah, well, since we've been gone, Eric, there have been so many fun things going on in Packer Nation, right? The biggest thing, how can we avoid this? The overall speculation since J.J. Watt and the Houston Texans mutually agreed to part ways. The feeding frenzy on Twitter, the feeding frenzy in Packer Nation to get J.J. Watt in a green and gold uniform is like nothing I've ever seen. What are your feelings, man?
Well, there's basically two things, right? He has a wife that plays professional soccer in Chicago. He has two brothers that play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chicago's very uniquely located close to where his home in Waukesha is. It's a nice little matchup with Green Bay and Chicago. You got two brothers that play for Pittsburgh. How cool would it be to play with your brothers? Obviously not as cool as playing for your hometown Packers, but that to me is the deal. He's not doing this. I'm not sure whether he would have been a cap casualty with 17 million or not.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those two. Was my feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know how you can not want to play with your brothers when the way that the world works, the small percentage of human beings that actually make it to professional sports, but then to have two defensive player of the year studs from the same bloodline and their other brother who is a mad dog fullback, I can see how you would want to play that. But if that card is the one you're going to play, you really are going to be giving up that card to win a Super Bowl, to close out your career. Because the way that – so now I've begun following the Pittsburgh Steelers since last week. So now they're on my bleacher stream. Their cap is worse than we could possibly imagine. Big Ben's cap hit is in the $40 million. Pouncey just retired, which has dead money. Juju's going to be leaving. Connor, their running back is an unrestricted free agent. They're not a team that I'm looking at is going to be competing in the AFC for a Super Bowl. And you want to talk about the Green Bay Packers. Now we got a different conversation going on right now because the money, I love how Andrew Brandt says it. If you want to get a player, you can get a player. Do we want to make that? Do we want to make that investment, Eric?
I'm not sure. I guess obviously it depends on the terms, but I have stumbled across something since our last podcast that I wanted to share, and it's something that I'm going to, with gusto, go after. But there's this whole thing that's called rational thought. I'm going to give it a try, and I guess I look at it this way. You had all your years growing up to play with your brothers. Now, after 10 years, it's time to win a championship. He has barely sniffed the playoffs in his career, and he'd be coming to a team 26-6 over the last two regular seasons with a legitimate shot. He'd be a very nice addition. Again, it all, like we're going to say a million times on this podcast until next summer, the money, the salary cap, how is it all going to work together Can you structure a nice contract that pays him much better in the second year? Do you do a 3-year deal with a less expensive year this year? Um, Hard to work out, but
Yeah.
God,
Well, listen. Hey, not look at Eric. Not our problem. That's Russ Ball's field. We can speculate all that, but we don't know a damn thing when it comes down to this. You look at the complexity of these contracts and everything else that's out. From a new TV deal going to get worked out in the next couple of years, there's a way that we can just we can stretch this to hit this window, which I think is a very important window for us to hit, not just for the career of Aaron Rodgers. I think for the career of every Packer fan. And make no mistake, being a Packer fan is a career. It's a 24/7, 365. You know what I'm saying? I've been in the same 3 Packer sweatpants for 13 months now, I think. It's a hello quarantine, but it has been just a passion that I can't think does not deserve a payoff right now. And I think everybody out there speculating what his contract's going to be. I mean, listen, dude, if you're J.J. Watt and you're getting $10, $12 million to line up next to Kenny Clark, Zadarius Smith, Rashawn Gary, to not have to be double-teamed every play, Eric, to be double-teamed once every third play. And guess who that opens up everywhere else?
well, that's a logical segue. So let's just jump into the question of how does he fit. Joe Barry is bringing the Brandon Staley version of the Vic Fangio defense, which constitutes, it's some of it is a lot more of the same. We're going to see a lot less inside linebacker. They play a tremendous amount of snaps with only one inside linebacker on the field. Their nickel is weird in that it's one inside linebacker, 5 defensive backs, and they play this odd sort of 5-man front with 3 linemen and 2 outside linebackers. And if you can line up J.J. Watt with Kenny Clark and player X and have Rashawn Gary and Zadarius Smith on that line as well, that sounds like a very, very difficult unit to block up. It sounds like a really interesting lineup.
It sounds like a Super Bowl championship defensive lineup to me.
It surely does.
Because you look at what we have on the second level with Barnes and Martin coming back. We know what Martin can do from a blitz perspective, but he's fast and he's going to be a little more controlled. He's going to have a preseason. I'm really excited about what he's going to do to shore up that second level. But our secondary, we got questions back there that can easily be answered as well. And I don't want to segue into Richard Sherman, but you throw a guy who, again, here's what I think is in the back pocket of the Green Bay Packers. We've focused so much on what is the salary implications of all of our free agents. Well, hey, guess what? Every other team out there is doing the same thing. And the names that have been floated around as being cut right now are pretty spectacular. But listen, my opinion is you're going to have veterans that are cut right now that still got juice. Look at Kawan Short, who just got cut by the Panthers. That guy's a 2-time Pro Bowl. He is a big man that could line up right next to Kenny Clark as well. These kind of players coming out, who do they want to go and play for? Everybody's going to want to go play for Tampa Bay, Green Bay, Kansas City, right? Those are the ones that are going to be, it seems like, in the running perennial for the next 2-3 years. So what does that mean from a free agent perspective that I'm trying to get at? I mean, we have a destination that has a silver lining of Aaron Rodgers winning coach in the opportunity to play in a Super Bowl with an NFC a little less strong than the AFC, I would say right now.
I think that's fair. Couple of pieces, when I just a second ago mentioned player X, Kingsley Keke is a up and coming player, and I mean if you think that Dean Lowry can make noise when he's unblocked, let this guy go. I felt very disrespected as a Packer fan. when this came, what I'm about to say came from the Milwaukee Journal, and they talked about the Brandon Staley version of this Fangio defense that Barry's going to bring to Green Bay, and the two pieces that we don't have to make it work are Jalen Johnson and Aaron Donald. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. The star position, which Jalen Johnson plays an awful lot, means lining up in the slot quite a bit, and it's a more of a one-on-one dedicated position. The Aaron Donald thing, yeah, Aaron Donald he's a generational player. I get it. He didn't, or very seldom in his career, has lined up as a nose tackle like Kenny Clark has. When Kenny Clark is freed to play 2 to 4 technique and get outside, we saw what he can do in the playoffs. He's a game changer. He's a line wrecker. I think that we're just as well suited to play this defense as the Rams are. And Jalen is a little bit bigger than Jair Alexander is. Alexander is a vicious tackler. He's a cover guy. He can do anything that Jalen Johnson can. And so it's going to be interesting the way this plays out. A couple other guys that I took a quick look at on our defensive line. Anthony Rush, the big fella. Mm-hmm. I went back and looked at 2019 tape versus the Rams, incidentally. And this guy playing on the nose got so much push. He was absolutely destroying things. I cannot fathom how a guy 6'4", 350 pounds has been cycled through so many teams. I don't know if there's a mental thing or a personality problem in the locker room. You
call him crazy or what?
I don't know. I just don't understand how a guy with this kind of talent has bounced around so much. I mean, he was taking this center and one arm walking him back 5 yards. And wrecking plays, creating situations for the other linemen and the linebackers. And if we can get somebody over the middle, over the nose, to move Kenny Clark out to a more natural position, I just think we can have a devastating defense. The other guy that William Prevalon, watch some tape on him. Going to be real interesting to see. Kind of feel like him, like we did about Kiki last year. Up and coming guys, interesting lineups. We're not going to have, the huge D line group in this type of an offense, but I think it's going to be better supporting cast for this defense than the Lancasters and the Lowrys and the Prices that we had this year. Could open things up considerably for J.J. Watt and Kenny Clark. And then to have our outside guys, it's awful attractive. Attractive.
I've seen a lot of people that have really written Preston Smith off as a shoe-in cut. I think that is I still have a question about Preston Smith. I have a question of, is there a possibility, I don't know, throwing this out, if he takes any kind of reduction, whatever, who are the surprise cuts that we're going to have? I'm just flipping the coin here because everything I read, Preston's gone. What if he stays? Who are some surprise cuts you're feeling? Because there's always been the top 5. Wagner's gone, Kirksey's gone, he's gone, Lowry's gone. What do you think are some surprises that could happen? Because I just think there's got to be a couple surprises in here.
You and I talked the other day, and I think Wagner's gone. However, I think Wagner has a far better chance of staying than Preston Smith does. Surprise cuts. So obviously we've gone all over all of the
who has a
cuts.
Starting right tackle for $6 million? How, you know what I mean? That's my problem with Wagner. You have a guy who is starting on your line at $6 million in that position. That seems like a bargain to me. Maybe if there's a restructure, but the whole cut and hope he comes back, it seems more like you cut and he's gone because someone's going to pick him up.
Maybe somebody like Tevin Jenkins.
Oh, dude, we're talking about this now?
Well, you asked about a right tackle.
Well, now you got me all fired up. I got to cast him on the green screen. We've been talking a couple days now on the phone while we haven't had the studio up. But, man, I have done so many. Just switching over. If anybody out there is listening and has not jumped on to Pro Football Focus, PFF.com, and done their drafts simulator, What a blast. If you're, sitting on the toilet and you got some extra time, you might have the longest deuce of your life because, you might just rip through 8, 9 mock drafts because it's so much fun. Tevin Jenkins out of Oklahoma State University, Eric, is a guy that has come up on so many of my mock drafts. And at that, so I've adjusted, you can adjust the draft needs and everything else from other teams. And the interesting thing was I've had a few guys that have come up often enough that I've selected. Trey Sermon, another one running back out of Ohio State. But Tevin Jenkins is 6'6", 325, 330 pounds, who fits perfectly. He's a day one starter. He can step right in at right tackle and do damage. Maybe that helps us out with a Rick Wagner post June 1 cut. I don't know. I don't know if you need to designate that at some point or if you can really cut him after June 1 or after you draft somebody. But he is a guy that I really get excited about because we talk so much about what do we need to get in the first round? Do we need to get the stud defensive lineman? Do we need to get a cornerback? Do we need to get that Kevin King replacement? We sure do. But I'll tell you what, when I've done these mock drafts, some of the cornerbacks that are highly rated are already gone. And then you're picking between, Asante Samuel. I don't know, man. The more I look at that Florida State tape, the more I go, is he a 29th pick or, I don't know. Seems like again he's not the stud corner. So it's come up offensive line. I've grabbed center first. I've grabbed tackles first. But this guy, Tevin Jenkins, is my favorite so far, and I hope he becomes that selection. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that particularly if we do something with J.J. Watt, that to me takes defensive line off those first two rounds.
Yeah.
And I think that there are I think we have more in the cornerback room than we realize. And if the credit, there are some nice looking cornerbacks that are second and third round guys as well. If you've got a guy like this who can step in and start while Bakhtiari's healing, and then maybe provide depth along with the big fella Yash for the rest of the year, he may be the replacement for Turner. And now you're looking at having still developed depth and guys, because boy, same thing happened in the Super Bowl with Kansas City. You lose your big tackle and you shuffle guys around and you got destroyed.
Yeah.
Green Bay gave up, our offensive line this year gave up 26 sacks the entire year, 10 of them against Tampa Bay. So you take out, that's 17 games if you look at it that way, or 18 games, and 10 of them came against one team, so 16 sacks. That's a sack a game. That's a high win rate guarantee.
Yeah.
But no, this kid Jenkins, and there's a couple of other interesting O linemen. He's the most interesting one to me so far. If we're looking at a first round draft pick, but boy, that solidifies quite a few things.
I mean that really ices the future, Eric. Yeah. For me, I mean, you got Bakhtiari coming back healthy. You got Billy Turner as the interim. I just, and this is what I do, everybody who's listening. I obsess about a player, especially a guy who's come up on my mock draft this much, and I'll be talking about him, dreaming about him, visioning what he could do in the Green Bay Packers offense, and then he'll get selected 16th in the draft, and all of this time I've wasted on him has been for nothing. But so it goes. Hey, another guy I want to talk about, though, is Trey Sermon out of Ohio State University. Eric, I every time our fourth round picks have come up, I have taken him damn near every draft because he's been available. And I got to tell you, he looks as NFL ready a running back and somebody that would complement exactly what A.J. Dillon does. It's a shift from the small, quick, shifty backs. But again, there's also other backs that are small and shifty. There's a couple really good running backs available 5th, 6th round that are those shifty 5'9" to 5'11" pinballs. But Trey Sermon is a monster. I loved him at Ohio State, but if he was in green and gold, Eric, I mean, and again, it might be my bias that I always select him, but he's always available, and he's a great player.
Well, let me answer that by sort of looping back to the previous discussion on offensive tackle. Without an Aaron Jones, who can take blocks that aren't perfect and make something out of it because of his speed, Offensive line and blocking is critical. Another reason to look at that. Another reason to look at that tackle. And without Aaron Jones, maybe we're back to being a more physical Green Bay mutter kind of running offense, which I have absolutely no problem with. You know, the problem with the smaller guys, particularly high in the draft, is look what happened with Aaron Jones. You know, how much availability did he have in his first 2 years? Got nicked up quite a bit. I'm getting the feeling like your friend from Ohio State and Mr. Dillon are going to be able to deal with that contact a little bit better. Aaron Jones, I mean, love the guy, but I'm now of a mind that given this year, he's not really a consideration.
His market value keeps popping up at 14 million everywhere that I'm looking. And listen, God bless you, Aaron Jones. Love you and your family, but we just can't afford that. And in the draft, I think, man, there's some interesting weapons, especially when we're talking about these gadget receivers. You know, Kadarius Toney is another receiver that I got in the first round often. But, you know, you also have a lot of cornerbacks there, Eric, that once you look at them a little more, and this is going to be something that we're going to deep dive in as the episodes come out. We're going to start taking a deep dive into these positions because right now we're just getting an overall feel of these players, where they're landing, I guess, in all the projections and off-season rankings. But cornerback is something you and I really got to deep dive. We got to throw up some players up here on the green screen and give everybody an idea how they would fit in Green Bay, because there's a few that look great. I don't know if we got the draft capital to move up and get some of these guys, but what are your thoughts?
Well, that's a very difficult, fun, interesting proposition, but it's very difficult because what we really don't know for sure is how Joe Barry's going to take this Staley Fangio defense and apply it to the personnel we have here. You know, if Jair Alexander is going to play that star position, he's going to spend a lot of time in the slot. Mm-hmm. What does that do for our need for a slot receiver that we might get more out of than Shannon Sullivan? Does that dictate
slot corner?
I know, but does that dictate more? We need a guy who can play the boundary more than we need a guy that can play the slot, because Alexander's going to be there an awful lot. Alexander playing in that slot also gives the defense the ability to disguise coverages significantly. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, moving in and out of there at the snap, it's going to be interesting to see how we implement the personnel we already have into his new defense.
I would like to encode or decode this comment that you just made for all of our listeners. Quote unquote, listen, we have Kadar Holman and Kabianento that we don't know anything about, and I'm a big fan of. So let's just chill out and see what we got in those guys. Hey, I agree. I think we got some, but I get nervous when we talk about a cornerback in the first round when they're not the top couple cornerbacks. Because, Eric, I got Asante Samuel in the third round in one mock draft, and I was like, that just doesn't even seem right. But I don't know. There might be some things about this guy that I was seeing on tape that I went, all right, man, this is something we can't do. A name is a name, but
well, let me just throw this out there for that first round pick. Yeah. Look at the history we have with drafting offensive linemen.
Carroll.
No, offensive linemen. Elton Jenkins, David Bakhtiari. Look at how we've evaluated offensive linemen. Look at what we've done at cornerback just in the last 5 years with the Randalls and the Rollins. Yeah. We have not done a good job of picking corners early.
We can't convert safeties to corners.
But Jair's Gutekunst, so you know, does that change in the evaluation process? I don't know.
I don't know, man. I don't know how anybody could look at Jair in college and not go, wow, he's the man. He is the perfect guy for a corner. He's got no memory of anything that burned him, and he's cocky 100% of the time and confident. I love it. Eric, we got a couple other things to address, really on the defensive side of the ball. And the biggest questions were the coaches. You mentioned that Jared Gray is still under contract. How how does that make you feel? If you're Jerry Gray, you get overlooked, and now you're the secondaries coach. I'm sure you
Well,
can find the affection for your players, but how do you adopt?
well, first off, let's just say if he had been on our staff for 4 or 5 years and was overlooked, I get where you're going. He's a 1 year guy. He just finished his first year in Green Bay. That's a pretty big elevation, and that's
Yeah.
something that I kind of thought we were going to do anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But having Jerry Gray on your staff is a net huge plus. Period.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And Mike Smith at linebacker, does he adjust? Is there any news you've heard about Joe Barry bringing in any other positional coaches, assistants, in any regard?
None whatsoever. And I'm curious that I don't even know who makes that call. Is that LaFleur's call, or is it now Joe Barry's call? I'm
Yeah.
guessing LaFleur.
Hmm.
And if
Any?
you're LaFleur and you got Jerry Gray sitting there, pretty much a no-brainer.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anybody who knows any information, please let us know. We have dogs barking out the door right now. They want to know the news just as bad as we do. So, all crazy here. Anything else you got to comment? Question on the defense right now?
Um, no, but it's interesting that the other part of this defense that's going to seem all too familiar to us is the reliance on this sort of safety hybrid linebacker position, which is something that the Fangio Staley system utilizes. One place, of course, this was before the hire, but that Vernon Scott fits that mold to a T. And so it'd be interesting to see what we get out of him if he's going to sort of assume that similar role to Raven Green.
Yeah, I think Raven's gone, right?
I'm guessing so, but hell of a player. But I think he's gone. How you incorporate that into the system makes me a little bit nervous. You asked earlier about surprise cuts. Well, we've already talked about the people that can really generate serious money, but $1.5 million, $1.5 million. A surprise cut I might throw out there if he doesn't move to safety is Josh Jackson. I don't think we've seen enough. I think we've seen enough of him to not want him playing cornerback. And you got a guy with ball skills. I mean, he had 1 year, I think, with 8 picks at Iowa. He might be in this system where the safeties, they're not Tampa 2 depth back, but it's 2 safeties back, which gives you a lot better time to react to the play and to react to the ball. That might be something that Josh Jackson could excel at. Don't know. But it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good call. Gosh, I wish he turned out to be something. My surprise cut, Eric. Geez, don't lynch me for this, anybody out there, but Equinemius might not make this team. There might be something that happens when I look at the available wide receivers out there, and especially some of the receivers that might, they break the mold of the 6'4" plus receiver, right? They're the shifty gadget, Tavon Austin, younger, faster, coming out right now. There's some really good players in the draft, so I can see EQ on that bubble right now, and us just not getting his full potential felt. There's also another mock draft I wanted to come out that his brother, I don't know how to pronounce his name, but he
USC?
He's from USC, Amon, or I'm sorry about that. I apologize, but he is a heck of a player, and we had drafted him and going, man, what if you draft him and you cut his brother in the third round? It's something that I just don't. We might have a little more invested in him and could take that breather, because I think with MVS and Lazard, and now we've seen Juwan Winfrey, who is a big physical receiver who is going to be on the field, I believe, next year, who is going to take all the Malik Taylor snaps that we thought were going to happen. It didn't work out that way. So.
Well, I'm gonna be a little bit more positive on the EQ thing, but I definitely can see EQ replacing Malik Taylor as the number 5. And I'm saying that just because I'm invested in this kid. I just you finally got to see him play a little bit. Had that 2-point conversion drop, but the kid's got a lot of talent and he's finally healthy. I would hate to lose out on that, but you know what? Somebody better comes along. that's what we're about.
Yep. Yep. Sure are. Sure are. All right. Well, with that, Eric, good talking to you again. It's been too long. We will be coming back here on Friday, and we'll have a little more updates and a little more deep dives into some of these players. But thank you guys for sticking with us. It's been a lot of fun. Check us out on iTunes. Give us that 5-star rating. Give us a review. People, help that logarithm take our name and launch us to the top, because make no mistake, the Acme Army is the fastest rising podcast in Packer Nation. Appreciate you guys listening to Spotify, SoundCloud. And don't forget YouTube, guys. We got a green screen. Things are about to go down. Check us out, Acme Army, Acme_Army on Twitter. And with that, Eric, take us out.
Yeah, I want to just say whatever he just said is, I can't say it that eloquently, but absolutely thanks to everybody. I want to make one little note here that I feel kind of that we didn't give Jimmy Leonard the proper respect. But looking after he turned down the job, looking at his 4 seasons at Wisconsin in FBS, number 2 in the nation in FBS over the last 4 years, number 3 in scoring. That's dominant. That to me is, this is Wisconsin, you know. That's incredible. So a little shout out to our friend from Tony. Everybody enjoy the rest of the week. Look forward to seeing you on Friday. And it's Go Pack Go time.